Thank you so much for this opportunity. Recently, the digital media news channel vpitv was subject to a raid. Maduro ordered the station to cease operation in the country immediately, threatening our team with criminal charges. As a result, we were forced to stop transmission and producing content in Venezuela. What message can the State Department send to the Maduro's regime to stop these campaigns of arrest, harassment and repression against the media? And another question, some nation groups and organizations have said that the only way out of the crisis is to properly resume political negotiation to start a transitional process in Venezuela. We received information that some people visited Washington, D.C. to try to convince the U.S. of a dialogue process with the regime. Had someone with the State Department participate in a meeting related to this? Is the U.S. considering negotiations with the Venezuelan regime? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, let me take the prerogative to welcome you to the briefing room. If I'm not mistaken, you are Gabby Peroso of VPI-TV, Venezuelan journalist who, as you said, your independent TV station has been shut down by the Maduro regime. So we're very honored to have you here. To your first question, the United States condemns media censorship anywhere in the world. Media freedom is essential to the pursuit of a vibrant democracy and responsive governance. Nicolas Maduro is a dictator. There is no doubt about that, and media censorship is a hallmark of dictatorships. He and those who support him have tried to silence journalists like yourself who report the truth through regime-directed harassment, intimidation, and violence as well. We condemn censorship. We condemn blocking, harassment, and other tactics to stifle independent media voices, including the recent shuttering of VPI-TV and harassment of 6 other Venezuelan independent outlets. We support journalists and other democratic actors who are advancing the struggle for democracy in Venezuela. Maduro's continuing media crackdowns severely limit Venezuelans' access to accurate information. As a result, more than 5 million Venezuelans live in a so-called news desert with insufficient access to independent media. I think the broader point here is that only a regime afraid of its own people would engage in such practices. You mentioned our general approach to Nicolas Maduro and his regime. We haven't had a chance to speak to it in this context, so I think it's worthwhile. The overriding goal of the Biden-Harris administration is to support a peaceful democratic transition in Venezuela through free and fair presidential and parliamentary elections, and to help the Venezuelan people rebuild their lives and country. Venezuelans have a right to democracy and a government that promotes and defends it, just like everyone else in this hemisphere. President Biden, you have heard him say this even before he was elected President Biden. He understands the pain that the current crisis in Venezuela has inflicted on the people of Venezuela and their families. Again, Maduro is a dictator. His repression, corruption, and mismanagement have created one of the most dire humanitarian crises this hemisphere has seen. That is why this administration is committed to several principles. One, designating as appropriate Venezuela for temporary protected status. Number 2, addressing the humanitarian concerns of millions of Venezuelans with international partners. Number 3, targeting regime officials and their cronies involved in corruption and human rights abuses. And number 4, again, aiding and restoring a peaceful, stable, democratic future for Venezuelans and the regime, both through free and fair elections and a long-term economic recovery. As to how we're going to do that, look, I certainly don't expect this administration to be engaging directly with Maduro. As we've said, we will work through a number of we will work with a number of allies and partners to bring about progress towards democracy in Venezuela. We will do that with our partners in the region. We will do that with our European partners and allies. We'll do that with the OAS. We will do that through the Lima Group, through a number of fora, like-minded fora that share the same goals of bringing about democracy and human rights and an end to this corrupt dictatorship in Venezuela.